How's the week so far? 2 days into the week?
So far, so good. I think it's going to prove to be a productive week. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
And February is almost done.
I'm telling you, the year has begun.
Yeah,
I mean the year is kicking in, and it's progressing well, and we're looking forward to what March will have for us. I think this is the last week of February, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
I know February is a month of love, but love must continue even after February.
That's a good one. That's a good one. We have to continue.
Yeah.
All right. So tonight, what are we looking at?
We're looking at a very, very interesting conversation. And just to say two things before I even talk about the topic. First of all, we're streaming live on Facebook.
Yes.
The page is Dr. Walu. For those that are able to tune in on Facebook, you'll be able to find a live video, and you'll be able to watch us live in the studio. The page is Dr. Walu. You look for Dr. Walu, you'll be able to find the live stream. But also the exciting news is that we are on YouTube as well.
Yes.
So
That's very exciting.
Yeah, so Ask a Man will be on. The segment will be on my page. Again, it's on YouTube. It's Dr.WaluTv.
So people can subscribe.
They can subscribe there, and they'll be able to look forward to every live stream that we do. They'll be able to watch it.
Yeah.
Today we're talking about something that is quite sensitive.
Yes, it is.
But I think we have to talk about this because on this program, what we endeavor to do is talk about some of these particular topics or subjects that may normally be ignored or just put by the side. Tonight we're talking family secrets. How can a victim of incest come out of an incestuous relationship? How can a victim of incest come out of an incestuous relationship? So we're talking family secrets tonight, and it's been said many times, what happens in the family stays in the family. And people have talked about family secrets, and there's so much that happens in those circles and in terms of the family. A lot of times things are swept under the carpet, and most of the time there's no proper way of handling such. Sometimes people don't know how to properly handle those kind of situations, and so because they're not handled very, very well, there's a lot of people, especially the person who goes through that incest, who is a victim. A lot of times they're mishandled, and a lot of times they don't get to recover fully from such. And so we want to discuss around this particular subject and see how we can help somebody. We have Naomi tuned in all the way from McKinney. Good evening to you, Naomi. Please, those of you that tune in via Facebook Live, let us know where you're watching from. So it's a very, very critical topic, and I'm hoping as we go on we can unpack it and talk about these family secrets and incestuous relationships. And if you're a victim of incest, how can you come out of such?
All right. If you want, you can remain anonymous. We don't want to know your name. You can just send us a message. You can send a WhatsApp message on 0978-895-895. And if you want to call, 226841, 0211-226841. Ask questions, contribute if you want. All right. So this is Ask a Man, and tonight we are looking at family secrets. Yeah.
I want to begin by defining the word incest, so that we have one understanding. Incest is sexual relations between people classed as being too closely related to be involved in a sexual relationship. All right, it's actually a crime. It's the crime of having sexual intercourse with a parent, a child, a sibling, a grandchild, a relative in that in that respect. And so this is a big issue. Let me give overall background in terms of why I feel we need to discuss this tonight. It's a very, very big issue because we have now, particularly in our setup in our country, Zambia, we do have extended families. It's a bit different with countries in the West because most of the families is father, mother, children. But in a case where, because of the challenges that we have had with HIV and, you know, a lot of orphaned children, a lot of, you know, extended family, people begin to come and live together in one family under one roof, and a lot of this begins to fester and begins to grow and begins to happen, and sometimes it's not dealt with adequately, and as a result of that, I am particularly worried about the victims that go through this in terms of how they have handled the situation or how they have been handled. Sometimes it's not very healthy, it's not very good. It leaves much to be desired. And so I'm hoping that we can shed more light to be able to assist somebody who has been a victim of this or is going through this currently, to see how maybe they can get ideas or tips on in terms of how to handle this. But also we need to talk about how you can manage the situation so that the perpetrator is stopped, because a lot of times the way the way I've viewed the situation, sometimes the perpetrators are not really dealt with to the core, and it leaves much to be desired. And also just to talk about the families in terms of how they are managing themselves so that we do not have such cases and such situations. So I'm going to go in a bit of detail to deal with those kind of things.
All right.
Yeah.
So once again, we'll keep on reminding you, if you want to call, if you want to comment, if you want to ask a question, it's a 0978-895-895, our WhatsApp line, and for the voice calls 226841. So let's go straight into it.
Yes. Okay. And so the first thing I want to be able to talk about is that these family secrets, in terms of the incest that happens, we see, and I probably want to talk about, we have situations where because of these extended families, you have a niece living in a home, you have a nephew living in a home, you have you know, a cousin living with you, you know, so you find that maybe an uncle, you know, may be involved in such a thing. My worry and my concern is that I feel we've heard of situations where a young girl would even go to the guardian, the female guardian, and say, this is what uncle is doing to me, or this is what my elder brother is doing to me. The natural reaction normally within the family is, in fact, that girl will be either beaten or they'll be taught to shut up or something like that. Now, the reason why that is like that normally is because maybe the man who's doing that, the uncle who's doing that to her, is the breadwinner. And the auntie maybe even sometimes may be aware of what is going on, or maybe has stumbled across that information to say that has happened in the family. Because of fear of disrupting the economic situation in the family, you find that maybe that whole scenario is swept under the carpet. It is not addressed. But for me, the question remains, so then what happens to the little girl or the young lady who has become a victim of that? Because most of the time they end up just shutting up, and they don't say much, and then they go on with this thing that happened maybe once or has been happening over a period of time, and it's eating them up, and they are told you can never tell anyone. Of course, maybe they may share with a friend or two, but it ends there because it can never be escalated. And in fact, if the little girl tries to escalate it, it may even be denied by everyone, because nobody really wants to open the Pandora's box in terms of those kind of happenings. But I am of the view, Clyde, that this thing can be correctly dealt with. It can be correctly dealt with. I don't necessarily think concealing and ignoring is the solution to incestuous relationships. Concealing won't make it better. It won't make it go away. And also pretending that it never happened also is never healthy for anybody who is involved. Whether you are the wife to the one who has done that or you are the victim yourself, keeping quiet does not help the situation at all. And so I think there's some remedial actions that ought to be taken to address the issue. Yes, you may not want to take it outside, but while you're not taking it outside, there should be a way of dealing with it once and for all. And there should be a way of ensuring that the person who is the victim with that situation that has happened, there should be a way of them to be able to find healing and you know, come to a place where they are whole again. Particularly in a country like ours, I feel this issue is heavily undealt with, concealed, and very, 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 very damaging in that respect. And so what I want to do tonight is, first of all, I want to be able to, maybe let me begin the other way. I want to begin to address, first of all, the perpetrators. And then second of all, I want to address the family setup, because I feel some family setups encourage such situations. They create a conducive environment for such situations to be able to happen. For example, if you are an aunt and you know you leave your niece with your husband, you know, there are people that do certain things like that, and they don't see any harm with that, because yes, they trust their partner, but eventually they put their partner at risk or in a position to be tempted to get into that. We'll get to talk about that in a bit of detail.
All right, let's take a short break. When we come back, much more on Ask a Man right here with Dr. Pastor Walu on Phoenix FM.
9.3 FM. Phoenix
So, good evening, friends. What you do is please do send your contributions, send your contributions, and we'll be able to read what you say or what your contributions are this evening. Let me know what you think about the topic. We are talking about incestuous relationships and how we can help people that have been victims of this to be able to come out of it. It's a very, very challenging topic, but I think it's something that we ought to talk about because the victims of this are very, 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 very challenged, and sometimes they don't know how to come out of it. They don't know what to do. So Pastor Michelle, you're tuned in. God bless you. Nkoma Dorothy, thank you for tuning in. Kiembe Lunga David, thank you for tuning in. Graham Kintu, thank you for tuning in as well. Cynthia Moses Chanda, thank you for tuning in. Let me know what you think. Incestuous relationships, we're talking family secrets. How can we help somebody who is a victim? It's a niece, it's you know, a cousin, because incest is not just uncle, niece, or you know, it could be, you know, cousin to cousin, you know, doing such to each other and things like that. And we know in our culture such things are said, you know, don't tell anyone, just hide, pretend this is not happening. But that doesn't help us, you see, because the person who has gone through this remains forever a victim, and the psychological, emotional impacts are daunting, all right, for the person who has gone through that. So that's what we're discussing tonight. Let me know what you think about the topic. Please do contribute. Your contributions are really, really needed so that we're able to share knowledge and learn together. Okay, so please let me know what you think. Yeah, so I wanna begin with the perpetrators. Yeah, the people that are actually perpetrators of this. Sometimes, and I don't know what happens, eh? But I think I'm on nyumba with.
Buzzy Mine. The night show is what you are listening to, and you are on Ask a Man. Dr. Pastor Walu is in the building, and tonight we are looking at family secrets. All right, so there's a contribution, there's a question rather,
Great.
from Joshua in Chingola. It says, that's a good definition of incest, but something didn't come out clear. Is sleeping with a cousin incest?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, it is. I think in my definition I mentioned that if you are going to have sexual intercourse with anyone who is family, that is incest. So whether it's cousin to cousin, brother to sister, uncle to niece, whatever, including situations where you have a brother-in-law, sister-in-law, those kind of things, that is still incestuous, and it's not all right. It's not all right.
Nice one. All right,
Yeah.
so feel free to contribute, feel free to ask questions. 0978-895-895, that's our WhatsApp line if you want to call 226841. All right, let's go into it.
All right, let me get some contributions. I have great contributions. Thank you guys for contributing. By the way, if you are able to join in, tune in to Facebook Live. The page is Dr. Walu on Facebook, and you can make your contribution and watch me live in the studio. Rebecca says the victim to express her feelings and to talk about it even with a pastor or counselor. Okay, I like that. Thank you so much. All right. We have a contribution from Pamela. Pamela says it happens. There is no need to hide, especially if the victim is underage. You have to report to the police. May I also say, Pamela, that whether the victim is underage or above age, but especially underage, it has to be reported. It's not correct. And that's what we want to talk about. There are some people, Clyde, that would feel, no, don't report. All right, keep it within the family because our family member may be arrested, and they fear that. So how do we go about it? And that's what we want to discuss because. And I want us to share knowledge. I'm not sharing this because I'm trying to be an expert, but I'm sharing this because I think I'm convinced that this is something we need to talk about. And I may not have all the information, but I will share what I know. And whoever else can bring up contributions that can help us, please bring them forth so that we help each other.
There's a contribution here. It says, wow, Dr. Walu, it's like you are literally talking to me. I've got a question. What if you've tried talking to a family member and they don't believe you because apparently they believe the person who looks innocent and can't do such, and the victim ends up being in trouble to a point they become helpless and lose hope, and also stop talking to their mental cause. They feel they are troubling their mental, who's a pastor. How does such a person get out of such a problem?
Okay. Again, like we said, this is real. And what I would say, first of all, be bold enough. Be bold enough to come out and formally address it. Whether it's a pastor that you're talking to, my question is, are you willing to go the mile? Because sometimes we share, with like side notes. You share like you just yakumbali, you know what I mean? Like okay, but this is what I'm going through, and you're not being straight about it, and you're not being formal. The question is, are you willing for us to take it all the way and actually deal with the situation 100%? If you're willing to do that, then you can really, really be helped. Sometimes I think the challenge comes in when you want to be helped, but you're not willing to go through with the process of what it will take, because it means we must actually confront it. It means actually we must deal with it. I don't think anybody who has cried out for help in terms of coming to a pastor, a counselor, or brings an issue to, to be addressed formally can be rejected help. The issue is sometimes we share, no, let me just tell you a secret, don't tell anyone. We're not talking about that. You need to address it very, very formally, so that you get a formal problem and put a stop to it, immediately and totally. Now, going back to the definition of incest, and of course we will address it, in a very, very deeper way. Sugar Ray says, no age, victims must report. Edwin says, can we also see you want to see Clyde in the studio? We'll be able to facilitate for that. You'll be able to see Clyde as well. Clyde is seated right here. I'll be able to do that. We only have one camera, so I have to switch it, and I'll be able to do that. But to blow up the definition of incest one more time, we say it's a human sexual activity between family members or close relatives. This typically includes sexual activity between people in consanguinity, which is blood relations, and sometimes those related by affinity, which is marriage and step family, through adoption, clan, or lineage. All right, so all of those, as long as somebody is family, you cannot have sexual relations with them. As long as you're connected, whether it's through marriage or whatever, it's all not allowed. It's not allowed.
All right, there's another contribution here. It says, I had a sexual relationship with my cousin. One night, her mother, who is my aunt, caught us in the act. The only people that know about it are the three of us. Today I'm married. She's also married. But that thing is still there, though we can't go back.
Okay, so in that case, and thank you so much for being open, and I pray that more people will be open. We will not be mentioning names. Please come forth, let's talk about it. I want to say that in this kind of situation where you have grown and it's something that happened in the past, and I know you may be feeling a sense of guilt and things like that, but I believe at the time when you were caught, at the time when that whole situation happening, as embarrassing as it was, I think at that time it was resolved, and it's a chapter that was closed, and you have moved on. So my encouragement is, please release yourself from that guilt of feeling bad about what you did. I'm glad you have moved on. You're married. She's also married. There's no need to try and bring it up again. I think this is something that probably you should want to just forgive yourself about as an individual and move on. We are human beings at the end of the day, after all. We are not perfect. Things do happen. And for me, the issue is, I am not talking about being perfect here. I'm talking about you being able to get over things and deal with problems as they arise and not ignore them, because sometimes people tend to pretend things are not happening meantime they're happening. But in a case where you dealt with it, the situation happened, please forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, so keep them coming. 0978-895-895. Our WhatsApp line 0978-895-895. So let's start with the perpetrators.
Yes. First of all, I want to say that we those of us that are mostly perpetrators are male, by the way. I don't want to be blind to the fact that sometimes some perpetrators could be female. That does happen. But for me, the issue is we must go back to the moral code and having values one more time, and the values of family, to be able to respect ourselves and to be able to to manage ourselves in such a way that we do not mishandle the people that have been placed under our care. Sometimes this is so terrible, because you'll find there are men that would actually even have sexual intercourse with an infant, with a baby, with a child, and we have heard stories like that. And the reasons sometimes people would want to attach, others are maybe connected to witchcraft, because some witch doctor told you, find a 2-year-old, do this to them and you'll be able to get money, or whatever the reason is. I am saying, if you are going to be doing such, surely you are going to reap, and you're not going to like what you will reap. We always reap what we sow, and such actions will not go unpunished. And so I want to encourage everyone, especially those of you that are involved right now. You are a man, you are keeping somebody, and you are doing such. The tendency, Clyde, is for people like that to feel invincible. They feel invincible. They feel like nobody knows. They feel like nobody will catch them. But I will tell you the truth. Even the word of God is clear. It says there's nothing that is done in the dark that will not be revealed in the light. Surely one day the issue will come out. One day you'll be exposed. You will suffer shame, and there will be consequences that will be attached to that. And above all, you are also ruining somebody's future. That little girl that you are keeping, that young lady that you are keeping, that person that you're doing that to, one day they will fail to be functional in a relationship or in a marriage because of what they went through. I always imagine, Clyde, you know, that a person who has gone through that will never look at men normally again. You know, because what do you do? How do you look at men normally again if you are 16 years old and you have a 45-year-old uncle? Who does that to you? You know, it's crazy. But I want to say to anyone who is thinking that way or doing such, I want to warn you sternly and encourage you, not even encourage you, because encourage is sounding like you know, I want to warn you sternly and, you know, to stop it. It's not right. It's not right. We must stop it. And on this show, we've talked about how men a lot of times sometimes culprits with a lot of things that we discuss on this particular show. You know, it seems a lot of these challenges, you know, us men sometimes we're to blame because we don't have a proper moral code in terms of how we're going to handle ourselves. And so you may feel invisible, but you will find yourself at a place where you discover that, and it won't be good at all. Yeah.
All right, so we've talked to the perpetrators.
Yeah.
We move on now to the victim.
Well, before we go to the victim, I want to talk about the other family members, particularly the auntie or the wife to the person who is the perpetrator. And now I've seen this many times in many setups in many homes. This is the typical situation. I really think wives or mothers in the houses must be careful not to create an environment that encourages such. We must be very careful. I see a lot of such kind of abuses, you know, and a lack of care, you know, because if you have a young niece and you decide this young niece is the one who's going to be cooking for your husband and she's the one who's going to be remaining with your husband and things like that, that is not very healthy. I believe a wife is supposed to protect the husband. And now we're not saying you are doubting the husband. We're not saying that. What we're saying is that you need to be careful to ensure that your husband is not exposed to such things. You know, is not exposed to a conducive environment for such things to thrive. How do you do that? You need to make sure that you watch over what your husband sees. There are times where you visit a relative and you know there are 3-4 ladies living in one house, and you look at how they address these young ladies that are being kept. They dress very skimpily, you know, so she's there in her miniskirt moving around, or she's just with a bathing towel. They're missing each other. The uncle is going to bath, she's also coming out from bathing, you know, the towel may even fall, and you know, this is my uncle, you know, the thinking is, you know, and all of that is not very conducive. Yes, the uncle must have morals, the husband in the home, the father of the house must have morals, but he's human. And if you're not going to watch over these things, you will put him at a place where he starts to have thoughts that are not okay. You have situations where you have somebody who's being kept and they're not dressing properly, they're not sitting properly in the house, and things like that. So in other words, to put it a very straight way, the interactions of the father of the house with the females in the house must be very respectful. They must be very, very, very respectful. The people that are being kept in the house must not be too free. So yes, you are a niece, but don't be too free with your uncle. You can't know your uncle is watching TV up to midnight. You are there. The wife is sleeping. Even you are watching a movie with your uncle. What are you trying to say? There should be a very respectful distance to say, no, this is my uncle. What is uncle in Nyanja? I forget. And if you find he's alone in the sitting room, move out. Go somewhere else. Don't be too free. You can't just be in your bum shorts, walking around from the kitchen to the sitting room or whatever. And unfortunately, Clyde, the times are hard. And sometimes, some young ladies are not very well meaning. They would actually want a situation where they make the uncle have bad thoughts, so that probably, and one of the topics we should come and talk about at a particular time is where there's, what do you call it again, blackmail, so she allows the uncle to do whatever, then she starts to blackmail him to say, if you don't do this, I'll tell auntie what you did to me, but the mother in the house, I'm addressing you mothers in the house. Watch how the ladies are dressing in the house. Be very tough. Don't allow your husband to see bums, to see, skimpy dressing, to see boobs and everything. Just don't allow it. Don't be very tough. To an extent where they know in this house certain things are not allowed. They shouldn't be too they can be free, but they shouldn't be too free. We must protect, us men, Clyde, what we see. Our eyes disturb us, we don't want to see things anyhow. It really, really disturbs us as men. It doesn't take much for a man to be aroused. And if you're not dressed properly, you're not behaving properly, if you're too free, Clyde, I've seen where somebody is being kept, it's a young cousin or something, and she's sitting on the lap of the elder brother, sitting on the lap of the uncle. Dude, what are you doing? Because you're just gonna make that man, think wrong. I've seen all sorts of things. The hugging and the what. No, this is my, elder brother, whatever, from my other mother, whatever. And it's all of that creates a situation where it becomes conducive for that. I've talked about how sometimes people have to leave, and now this young girl has to remain with this man. Unless in a situation that is very, very difficult, but if you can help it, do not allow your husband to remain alone with a young lady, a young woman in the house, especially the women that are advanced in age. If you are a 40-year-old woman, you're a 45-year-old woman, you don't want to bring this 18-year-old and allow her to sit on her uncle's laps, or a young cousin sitting on her big cousin's. You don't want to allow that, because she has fresh boobs. They're small, and they're pointy. And for a man who has a wife who the boobs have kind of sagged, the body is, and then he sees the opposite, which is fresh. He will be tempted.
Very true.
Yeah, he will be tempted.
Very true. This one here says, go deeper, tell them. I faced that challenge in my relationship with my ex. She thought I would do the same as the uncle did to her 7 years ago before I met her. She hates men from that time. How do I help her change her thinking about men? She can't date anyone. She's scared. Yeah.
And before I directly talk about the victims, I want to just raise awareness on what happens to the victims, coming from what he has said. Friends, we may not realize it, but the whole thing does a lot of damage to the young lady who's involved. Mostly it's the young ladies that become victims of this. It does a lot of damage, like he's saying, and like I said before, I alluded to before, there is no lady who remains the same after going through that kind of encounter. First of all, they will never ever see men the same. you have ruined that for them. They will never see men the same, meaning that even if they get married one day or they start getting into a relationship one day, these are the people where you hear she has become promiscuous. You know, you open them up to promiscuity, they become careless because they don't care about their sexuality. They don't value that anymore. They see it as a means of transaction and things like that. So you damage their perception of what a man is supposed to be. Secondly, you also damage their perception of love, because they do not know what real love really is after that, to an extent that you know, you can find a young man getting into a relationship with a girl, and this young man is purely, you know, attracted to this girl and says, I want to marry you and I love you, and for this girl who has been victimized before like that, the word I love you for her means I want to have sex with you, and the relationship means sex, and immediately she wants to begin to have sexual intercourse. Why? Because that's what she has known about love, that love is just about sex and things like that, and it's so bad, especially those that have gone through the incestuous relationship for a long time. It's so terrible that literally their whole definition of being in a relationship and eventually being married is warped. It's not correct. They don't see love correctly. And love is not about sex. Love is not sex, and sex is not love. We need to make that very, very, very clear. Love is about somebody caring for you, cherishing you, valuing you, taking care of you, and you know, having your best interests at heart. You know, sex is probably an ultimate expression that comes later in a marriage setup where somebody now feels they want to be intimate with you. But a lot of times people are damaged, and they do not, girls particularly, and these are the ones that even end up going into prostitution and things like that, because they become damaged in their thinking and in their psychology.
There's a contribution here saying incest is just disgusting and there's no justification. Skimpy outfits or not, morals and self-control are important. Problem is, we are always trying to justify it by blaming dress code or proximity, when the facts are that people who even get into the state of mind to perform these acts are twisted and incomplete psychologically.
Very good, and I think that's the thing I addressed in the first place, because I talked about the perpetrators and I talked about those that do that. I think, and if you are a man who is lustful like that, and I'll tell you some of the things that drive that, Clyde. So going back to the perpetrator, if you are a person who watches pornography, pornography is a driver of such. Your moral fiber goes down. You lose your sense of morality, because the tendency is, if you are somebody who watches pornography and then you are seeing your cousin or your niece is not well dressed, guess what? You will make a connection between what you were watching and now who you are seeing physically, who's present, and you begin to want to practice such. So pornography is a driver. The other thing that is a driver is just basic lust. There are a lot of people that have a problem with lust. You know, their sexual appetite is out of order, and you know, their whole life is overtaken by this drive and this desire to want to just have sexual intercourse all the time. And so if you are a person who's bound by these kind of things, you will find yourself in a situation where you begin to victimize people. So I think we talked about that very, very, very clearly. And so for me, if you are a man in such a situation, you are lustful, you watch pornography, and your mind is not the same, you know, in terms of how you see women, you need help. Get help. Get help before you do something that will land you in prison. Get help. So that's very, very, very critical, as we mentioned. But I was talking about the victim, and I think where he was coming in is where I was talking about the responsibility of the other family members, and particularly I hear what he's saying, but Clyde, I have seen it. There are some wives that are careless. They don't care about their husbands. That, you know, you don't expose your husband to see things. No, you can't expose your husband to be seeing thighs and boobs and hips, you know, nakedness in the house. You can't do that. You know, he's a human being.
Very true.
Yeah, you can't do that. He may be strong for 5 years, but one day he may make a mistake, because why? You exposing him to such, and you're making it look as if it's okay. The whole thing of, you know, go clean your my bedroom, and your uncle is there but clean. You know, all of those things. It sets up a man, and eventually your man will ufyanya, and then you want to point fingers. So that's. But I was dealing with the victim and the damage it does, particularly on the victim. They, number one, like I said, they do not see men the same way. Number two, I say they do not see love the same way. That is affected. You know, and then number three, thirdly, they just go into arrested development in terms of how they grow, going on into the future. That is really, really, really disturbing. It opens them up to a lot of victimization. It starts with sexual victimization, but it ends up in other areas as well, because women that have gone through that become very, very dysfunctional. They can't operate or think normally. And you see, the challenge is much more, especially if it started when a child is younger. It's very, very, very difficult. It's very, very, very difficult for that kind of person to recover fully and come to a place where they are in alignment. And so if somebody is listening, you have gone through that, you need to get help. You, as a young lady, you need to get help and have this dealt with. So now I want to zero in and maybe begin to help the victim themselves. It's I think it's a very, very critical, and those that are listening and that may be in this kind of situation, you are living in a house. I had a situation, you know, several situations that I've had where I've cancelled people, you know, but it's very, very, very disheartening when you hear a story of somebody that has gone through an incestuous relationship. It's very, very disheartening. And one of the things that I have noted is a lot of times they feel caged and they don't know how to come out of it. They don't know how to come out of it. Much more, especially because some of them have made some efforts. They have tried to talk to the person who's keeping them, the mother in the house, and say, auntie or mommy, this is what happened to me. All right, uncle touched me, or uncle did this to me. A lot of times they receive a slap back for such, and a lot of times they're looked at as the ones who may be initiated for that to happen. And so a lot of times, because of that, those threats of I should never ever hear you say such a thing again, they draw back and they do not know how to deal with this anymore. Particularly if somebody is an orphan just being kept, they are from a vulnerable background, and this uncle is the one that is taking them to school, this uncle is the one that is providing, it becomes very, 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 very difficult. But what do you do? Let me just try and lay out some steps that somebody can take in dealing with this. What do you do when you find yourself in this kind of a situation and you are a victim you know, of an incestuous relationship, whether it's a cousin who's doing that, a brother, a father, an uncle, or whatever? What do you do? The first thing you probably need to do, if that has happened to you, or maybe you were raped or something, the first thing is you need to address the perpetrator themselves. That is very, very, very critical. I have seen that the silence from the victim is normally what encourages the perpetrator to go on. All right. Now, a lot of times, how this happens, it begins with enticements. You know, so the young lady is given sweets, they're given money. You know, come to the bedroom, I'll give you money. You know, come to the bedroom, I'll give you this. They are enticed slowly. There's a lot of playfulness. you know, running around the house, you know, playing around, things like that, and it happens very slowly. So they are wooed and enticed into this. So most of the time it begins with simple play, and they don't see where it's going. But before they realize, oh my God, this man is serious, and he's taking off my underwear, you know, and now he's doing this. And at that point they are shocked, because they never thought this big man would go as far as doing that. They never thought that would happen, but then it happens. So now it has happened. What do you do? The first thing is you need to confront that perpetrator. Because I know one thing about men, whether it's an older man, 50 years old, or whether it's a younger man, a lot of times as men, we do not go beyond a certain point if we don't have a sense of permission. And I'm calling it a sense of permission. All right, there's got to be a sense you know, about you. And normally young ladies do give that sense of permission, where she's saying no, but she's allowing the man to take off the dress. You know, she's saying no, but she's allowing everything to go on, you know. So a man feels a sense of permission. But at the point where you have found yourself in that situation, you need to align what your mouth is saying with what your body is doing. You need to kick, to push, and refuse, and scream if you have to, and say, no, I am not for this, I am not having it. Because think about it, Clyde. What does a young lady lose if she screams?
Nothing.
Yeah, you know, and she needs to be able to assert herself and say no. The challenge comes in when maybe there are threats to say, if you do this, I will not do that. If you do this, I will not do that. And in such a case, I would advise anyone who is in this kind of situation, if you are being threatened, still protect your sexuality. It's very important for any young lady to be able to say, look, if you say you're not going to pay for me school, better you don't pay for me. This thing of sleeping with me, I will not go on with it. If it has happened once, that once better be the last time. The young lady, the lady involved herself, should be the one to determine and be able to say, this is not happening ever again. The challenge is the young ladies themselves begin to enjoy it, some of them. And they begin to, those are the ones where now they are not even sorry anymore that they did that in the first place. Their worry becomes not being caught, you know. And by the time they're even being discovered, you find she's even being arrogant. This young girl, you know, very, very arrogant. Why? Because she was enjoying it. So tonight I'm speaking about, you know, those that are saying, I am tired of being treated like this, I am tired of this going on. The power is in you, who is the victim, to realize that you need to move from thinking like a victim and thinking like somebody who can take control of the situation. That is step number one. Jacob Nguluve says, okay, says, wow, you Doc Walu, you are bringing out deep info. All right. And Sugar Ray says, mostly they are threats. All right. And I think we have addressed that. The threats, they are real. The threats are real, but they're just that. They are just threats. And they need to really, the girls need to assert themselves and be able to refuse to be threatened that way. And to say, look, if you're going to threaten me this way, better, it's not going to happen anyway. All right. When it happens the first time, I believe you must ensure that it doesn't happen again a second time. I think that's very, 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 very critical. Do we have a contribution?
All right. This one says, how do I help my friend? She can't allow me to chat with her for more than 10 minutes or get closer to her. I've done all I can. How do I help her forget about her past? Same text, remember about the ex-girlfriend who can't trust men. She can't stay in a relationship because of what happened in the past. She used to sleep with her uncle and everything.
Okay. What you do is please arrange for counseling for her. And now sometimes when we say arrange for counseling, some people want to just force someone. You know, Tio Kaone pastor or Tio Kaone counselor. You don't do that. Speak to her. reason with her and help her understand the importance of counseling. Because that's one of the things I was coming to talk about, to say you cannot avoid counseling with this issue. It's too deep to think you can get over alone. You know, and so if you try to actually handle it alone, you will take a very long time to recover. It's not very easy. It's not a small issue. It's not a small issue at all. It has very huge psychological impacts, which huge psychological repercussions that must be dealt with. And so my advice is, speak to her, reason with her, and tell her, look, you need to speak to somebody. And it's that somebody now that will take her through and counsel her and help her, because without that counseling, it is indeed very difficult to get over this. And it's much worse. She will never enjoy, if she's married, she will never enjoy sex for what it is, because you lose a meaning and a focus for what sex is all about, and she will not know anymore. And so it's a grave issue. It affects in many ways. So it's important to find somebody to talk to, seek counseling, and that will help the situation.
Dr. Walu is a counselor, so so you can approach him.
They can get in touch with me once they agree and she's okay, and because she needs to be convinced to come, and I'm available to be able to counsel her.
All right. All right, so 0978-895-895. We are still taking your contributions. 0978-895-895. That's our WhatsApp line, and if you want to call, 226841. And if you are on Facebook, simply search for Dr. Walu on Facebook. You'll be able to watch us live in the studios as we discuss this important topic. All right. Any contributions on Facebook?
So far, Sugar Ray, and thank you, sir. Says mostly there are threats. And it says, thanks for addressing that. All right. Basically, that's what we have.
Okay.
Yeah. I was going to get into number 2. Number 1, I said, address the perpetrator. Tell them this is not happening again, and you're not okay with it, but you do not end. So you deal with it that way. But number 2, it's important at that point to see if you can develop an accountability system somehow. You need to tell somebody. Okay, you need to tell somebody. All right. It could be somebody who's trusted, an auntie or something. It's very important. Now, one of the things that people don't realize is there is safety in accountability. Yeah, it can be an embarrassing issue, but if you have somebody elderly that you can immediately confide in and talk to. Now, it's important to find the right person, because some people do not manage situations very well. They blow things out of proportion, and there's a lot of, they don't know how to keep confidence. They don't know how to deal with issues really. But I think it's very important for you to immediately find somebody and speak to them, because at that point also it's got to be somebody who's very wise within the family, somebody who is mature, and somebody that can give wise counsel, so that they are able to counsel you as a person, and possibly also counsel and speak to the perpetrator themselves. You want a situation where this wise person is able to counsel you and goes to the perpetrator and says, your niece approached me that this happened last night or whatever. It's very important to deal with it that way. The challenge, again, like we said, is the issue of threats. But if you're going to recover, now I want to speak to those that have been in this for a long time. And you are continuing to do this, whatever it is, this incestuous relationship, because you are fearing threats. At a certain point, you have got to weigh the odds, because while you are trying to keep to those threats, avoiding those threats, and you're trying to stay safe, there's a lot of damage that is happening to you. And by the way, Clyde, what happens is that the more you are involved in an incestuous relationship, the deeper you are involved, the deeper the damage. All right. So somebody who has been sleeping with the uncle for 1 year cannot be compared to somebody who slept with their uncle once. All right, the damage is different, but there is a lot of damage that happens. Let me take a contribution from this is okay. Let me read the contribution. This is okay. It says, I think as humans should be able to control our feelings. I saw a disturbing report on child abuse where a 7-year-old orphan was being abused by the cousin, and the auntie was telling her to keep quiet and not tell anyone. This act really disturbed me a lot, to a level where I don't feel like welcoming any male relative in our home. It's so uncomfortable and scary. It's like our girl children are not safe. Okay, and she says we need support groups to help the affected people. Someone should speak out and break the silence. Hey, by contributing, this is Chili Bite Harrison. By contributing, we are breaking the silence, and thank you so much. But that's a good aspect that has been brought up, because the girl children in their homes are not safe.
They are not.
Yeah, and sometimes we must be careful as families to vet out who is coming to stay in our home. It's very, very critical, because some people don't think correctly.
No, they don't.
So you get some guy, and you don't know what he's doing. So Edwin Mitty says, spot on, Doc, but my worry is that what you're saying had been said on many occasions, though doesn't change the situation. All right. Okay. So Edwin saying, this kind of thing has been said on many occasions, and most of the time it doesn't change the situation. So Edwin, my hope is that as we discuss, that somehow we raise awareness, and somehow people will become more sensitized. And particularly why a lot of times this has been said and not dealt with is because no proper solutions are normally given, and that's my feeling. Particularly, like I'm trying here to give solutions, especially to the victim and things like that. No solutions are normally given, and so that becomes a very, very big, huge challenge, because then we'll keep talking about it and nothing is really being done.
So I think what we're doing something different.
Exactly.
We are giving solutions.
We're giving solutions,
especially to the victim.
Yes. And I'm hoping, somebody who hears this will be able to take a step and deal with it. Let me get into the psychology of the victim. Now, anybody who has been victimized for a while, this is what tends to happen. They move from feeling like a victim to become, I don't know the term for it, but where they become sympathetic with their perpetrator, okay, to an extent where they start to love the incest. So this young lady moves from a situation where she's not happy with what has happened to her, and then now she begins to actually, now they think it's love, but it's not love. You can't say I'm in love with my uncle. You see my point, eh? What happens is that there's an attachment that develops to an extent where this niece will protect and defend and fight for the uncle and ensure that he's protected, even lying for him. Did he touch you? No, he didn't touch me. Does he send you whatever? No. Even they will protect, they will tooth and nail. So they move from being this victim to really developing, let's call it a sympathetic connection with the perpetrator. And once a victim moves from that to become sympathetic with the perpetrator, it becomes very difficult, because at that point, how do you advise them to stop what they are doing? It becomes very difficult. And so you find that a lot of young ladies are taken advantage of continually, and they think that is the life, because uncle is taking care of me, or maybe whatever relative, they're doing this for me, they're the ones that are paying for me this. And also that the perpetrator would even do a lot to try and ensure that he covers up, or this young lady does not speak. But I will tell you, any young lady, any victim who is involved in this, you are only hurting yourself. They're only hurting themselves, Clyde. And at the end of the day, it's them that are, are not going to have a proper perspective on life, on relationships, on love. And you can never be normal after that. It's not normal, and you're not doing yourself a favor. So it's very, very important to end it. I had a very sad situation one time where, this victim became so sympathetic with this perpetrator, and in particular, the case I'm talking about is where it's a stepfather. All right, it's a stepfather. So he's married. This man has married this woman who has a daughter, and now he's having a relationship with the daughter. A stepdaughter, and stepfather stepdaughter relationships do exist. And this young lady begins to find comfort. Oh, okay, this is my dad, but it's my dad who is also my boyfriend, and that is not correct. That is not correct. You who is listening to me, if you are listening to me, you need to get out of it, snap out of it. It can be very, very difficult, and maybe we may need to advise case by case. And what I encourage is people must reach out. All right, people, which was still my second point, reach out. If you can't reach out to somebody within the family because they won't be objective, reach out. That's why we are here. If you reach out to me, I will not be able to speak to anyone, or maybe blow your cover, and it'll be confidential. And I will be able to help you, particularly the person I'm talking about. We found that the only solution was for her to finish her exams. What we did is that I asked her to go and live with a cousin somewhere else while she was writing her grade 12. When she finished, she even left the home and never came back to that home until she even went to South Africa for further studies. That is how she escaped that. It can be very, very difficult, but my issue is we need to find a way out. You can't remain in that situation because it's not okay. It's got to end. It's got to end.
All right. There's a contribution here saying upbringing is also important. Our culture leaves no room to talk about matters of such a nature. And somehow people are expected to know better. I do not justify incest on the basis of ignorance, but what I do think is parents should be more open about sexuality and the importance of setting boundaries.
Goes back to, and thank you so much for that contribution, goes back to the responsibility of family that I was talking about much earlier. I think we must do more to protect ourselves within the boundaries of family, so that we do not accommodate or harbor such behaviors, to allow them to fester within the family. There's got to be a way. And like I say, the basic principle, for example, my wife is very careful. She will not allow anybody who was skimpily dressed to be around me. She will just not. People that we do invite in our homes must be invited to a standard way of doing things, a standard way of dressing in the home, a standard way of respectful behavior. There's got to be a standard that you embrace as a family, that you encourage, so that whoever comes, whatever crazy they have, they leave it outside the door, and they know in this house you cannot do this, you cannot talk this way, you cannot, whatever, interact anyhow with the opposite sex, especially with a bit of a distant relation. It's very critical to set those boundaries.
All right. This one here says, good evening. Let's take the awareness to schools right from nursery to all the way to senior grades. Let's tell our girl child to speak up. We need to build their confidence too. Thank you. That's Walia.
Walia, thank you so much. I know that a little bit of information is given, when children are growing up. But I want to also add to what Walia is saying, to say, this generation, the children are growing up very fast. And partly for me, the accountability also is for us to be able to be careful how we expose our children to issues of sexuality. You find that a 12-year-old has a phone with full internet and they're able to check anything. That is not healthy for me, because what you're doing is that when a child begins to learn about sexuality on their own and they're given free access, they develop a curiosity. So you'll find that for them, when somebody is touching them inappropriately, they will think it's play and they will have a sense of adventure and they want to explore, not knowing that they are playing with fire, and eventually that will damage them and destroy them. So how we expose our children, who we allow around our children, is very, very, very quick. We've heard of sad stories, of someone who's been invited in their home and they're abusing the children. Later on we'll come and talk about this topic, but the issue of maids and garden boys, you leave your children with a maid or a garden boy and they're helping themselves to your child. All of those things are things that we can talk about. But thank you for that contribution. I think the girl child is at risk, especially when they are young and growing up, children into their teens. We know that by the time a girl is finishing a grade 12, getting into college, they are able to manage themselves. They're able to make decisions on their own. But before, we must take extra care. It's a bit different for the boy child, much more for the girls. They need extra protection and they need to be watched over so that they're not abused.
All right. Any contributions on Facebook?
No. I think we're good for now.
All right. As we come to the end of the program,
yes.
How do you summarize it? Or maybe we should do a part 2 of this program.
Well, in conclusion, just to summarize this, I would say, like I said, first of all, for us men, for the fathers in the homes, for the people that are taking care of the orphans, the people that are taking care of these vulnerable ladies in our houses, I really pray, like I said, one of the drivers is pornography, the other driver is just basic lust that has, festered in a particular individual. We need to come to a place where we control ourselves. There is no excuse for such behavior. It's not correct and it must be totally dealt with. Don't allow yourself to be found in a compromising situation. Protect your heart, protect your mind, protect your eyes as a man. It's very, very, very important. But to the mothers of the homes, let's pay extra care on who comes in our home and how people behave around the males in your home, particularly your husband. Just have an extra eye. I know you may be looked at as though you are scared or insecure or whatever, but you know what? It's just important to say, look, in my house you wear chitenge. In my house, you just don't expose yourself. In my house, if my husband is bathing, you wait until he finishes to bath. Again, different with the cultures across the world. In our country particularly, we find that a home has one bathroom. There's no self-contained bedroom. So that one bathroom is where the father baths, where the mother baths, the children and the extended family. So you need to be able to respect, to say, okay, daddy is bathing now. Stay away from the bathroom area. Let him do his thing. When he's gone, then you'll be able to also go in and bath and whatever. So it's important to maintain that. You cannot be alone at I'm watching movies, Netflix with uncle, and that's 23 hours, and the wife is sleeping and the niece is with the uncle watching Netflix. No, that is not acceptable. The uncle must respect himself, but you as a young lady too, you know what I mean? What are you after? So if you're dressing skimpily like that in the house, what are you after? So let's be very, very careful with that. Don't underestimate the impact and the damage that incest does. It's very dangerous. And so for the victims who are in it, we've probably not covered much ground in terms of helping you, but what I encourage is we'll be able to give the number at the end. Please do get in touch if you're in this situation. Case by case, we should be able to help you on how you can get out of this kind of situation.
All right, and what number can they reach you on for those that might want help?
All right. So my number is please you can WhatsApp me on this number, send me a text, and then maybe call me tomorrow. The number is 0977 515773. I know this video will be on YouTube, so let me give the full number so that just in case somebody would want to call from outside the country. Is +260 0977 515773. I'll say that one more time. +260 0977 515773. Look, save that number as Dr. Walu and get in touch.
All right, Dr. Walu, thank you so much for coming through, for talking to us about that topic, that very sensitive topic that
necessary.
We always avoid to talk about.
I appreciate, Clyde, and just to also say, this video will be uploaded on my YouTube page. It's Dr.WaluTv, Dr.WaluTv. Look for that, and you'll be able to find this video. It will be posted.
And subscribe.
And subscribe, yes. Click the subscribe button and you'll be able to be watching all those videos as they come out.
All right, so Dr. Walu, we are trying to get him on Thursday. Maybe he will be back on Thursday.
Yeah.
If not, Tuesday. Yeah, but thank you once again for coming through.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right, so this has been the night show, Ask a Man with Dr. Pastor Walu, until Tuesday, right here on the night show on Phoenix FM. Here is Lady Gaga with Shallow.
So guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate, very tough topic, but we have to talk about these things. Please don't be silent. Talk about it. We're gonna help people. We're gonna help ourselves, because incest, particularly in our setup, is a huge issue. And a lot of people are victimized, and you see these victims that now when they get married, they can't have normal marriages because they've been abused, and they become sexually promiscuous and things like that, and even cheating on their marriage partner doesn't look like a big issue. Clyde, these are cases where you hear a girl saying, I don't know why you're upset. This is your wife talking to you. I don't know why you're upset. It's just sex after all.
Yeah.
It's sex after all. Why? Because she's damaged. She just thinks sex is just sex. Meantime, it's not just sex after all.
Yeah.
You are a married woman. And so please help me raise awareness. Let's keep talking about these issues. God richly bless you till next time. Thank you. This is Dr. Walu. I love you all. Appreciate you. Thank you.